Hey, welcome to the Lockdown Livestream story time. And I guess some people may have seen a post from earlier today, but I'm just gonna let you know that I love these flowers. Yes, I do. These flowers came from the new leaf and they're awesome. But I've been telling you how good they smell. And I have not been entirely forthcoming with you because while I do know that they smell good because others have told me they smell good, I do not know how they smell. I have not known how they smell since I got them. What I do know is that I spent my morning today getting tested for COVID-19 because the other thing is that I have been doing all the gargling and cough medicine and Ricola. Oh, that was brilliant. Before these live streams, but I have a really bad cough and fever and all those spectacular symptoms. And I went and got tested today because I got the flu test and it was negative. I've never seen a doctor so miserable about telling somebody that their flu test was negative and then showing up in what looked like a moon suit going to another planet to test for COVID-19. So my theory is that it's just some fantastic form of pollen that's kicking my butt right now, but you know. Also, we're joined tonight by my neighbor's dog. Bless his heart. He's going to bark. So I have a story for this dog. And actually, I think it's pretty appropriate for some people in authority in some places who seem to have this problem. So tonight's story is called The Lying Bug. Yeah, as they say on TikTok, I don't know who needs to hear this tonight, wink wink, but here you go. Wag the dog trotted through the open fields looking for something interesting to do. His father had sent him out to the field to look for food, but Wag was not very interested in food that day. Wag wanted adventure. So it was that Wag, hip deep in the high grass, was too busy adventuring to notice the lying bug sneaking up on him. Wag knew he should be doing what his father asked. It began to bother him that he was not doing what he was supposed to do. He was just about to turn around and head out to the hunting places when he felt a sharp pinch on his leg. It was the lying bug. The tiny creature was almost too small to see. The bug latched onto the back of Wag's leg and sank deep into his fur. With one sharp move, he got right under Wag's skin. Who needs to go scouting? He said to himself. I'm going to adventure and play all day. Then I'll go home and I'll just tell my father that I tried my best, but I couldn't find any food. With that first untrue thought, the lying bug began to grow. The bug crawled up Wag's leg and onto his back and settled in for a long, comfortable ride. Oh, these silly, silly creatures, the bug thought. Once they start lying, it takes them a dog's age to get around to figuring out how to get me off their back. Some never learn. I may have found a home for life here. Wag played and played all day and into the dusk before returning home. Just as he got to the front door, Wag began to feel rather badly. Perhaps he should tell his father the truth and just take his punishment. When he felt a little pinch on his back, it was a pinch of fear. He heard a little voice say, "Tell a lie. It's easier. Father will never know. Tomorrow you'll be twice as good to make up for it." The door opened and Father stood there looking angry and worried. Another pinch of fear bit Wag and he began to cry. Well, thinking Wag had been hurt, his father scooped him up in his strong paws and carried him inside. "You all right?" his father asked. "I was so worried about you." Now Wag panicked and he told his lie. I got lost and I got scared and I looked for food. I looked for food, but I couldn't find any. Sorry. The only true part of what Wag had said was that he was sorry, for suddenly he felt horrible about lying. The bug grew larger. Wag's father gave him a bath and noticed the bump on Wag's back. He knew a lying bug when he saw one. Suddenly he knew that Wag had not told him the truth about his day. When Wag had shaken off and was ready for bed, his father asked, "Are you sure you went out looking for food today?" Wag said, "Well, yeah, well, of course I did. I did." And the bug grew. And for the first time, Wag could feel its weight on his back. He was squirming and very uncomfortable, and his father noticed his son's discomfort. "Son, sometimes we make bad choices," he said, and when we make a bad choice, like telling a lie, then we have to think about the consequences of that choice and what they might be. Wag squirmed, and the little voice said, "A consequence. Ooh, that means a punishment. Keep lying. Lie. You'll be safe forever. Tell the truth and be punished. You have to lie. Lie now. Lie." Suddenly, Wag felt another pinch, a wave of anger. His face grew hot. His heart beat faster. He said, "I am not lying," he said, and he began to cry. The bug doubled in size. Each time the bug grew, its voice became louder, the pinches sharper, and the lying bug gained more control of Wag. Wag's father shook his head. Now he could see how big the lying bug was becoming and how heavy the weight was on his son. He also knew that there was no way to tear the lying bug out and that lying bugs never died. His son was going to have to learn a very hard lesson. "As you say, son," his father said sadly. "Sleep well." But Wag did not sleep well at all. The bug made him sleeping almost impossible. It was painful and lumpy and frightening. And Wag had terrible dreams. In the morning, he looked awful. "Did you sleep well?" his mother asked. "Of course I did," he said. The lying bug grew. His mother offered him breakfast, but he said he wasn't hungry. And the bug grew again because this too was a lie. He was very, very hungry, but he didn't want to sit at the table with his father because he suddenly felt very uncomfortable facing him. When he went to school, he arrived at class and he realized that he hadn't done his homework. When he saw the teacher collecting the papers, he doubled over. And he pretended to have a stomachache. Instead of asking for his homework, the teacher sent him straight home, and the bug grew again. When Wag got home, he could barely stand up because the bug had grown so heavy, and his mother and father stared at him and the huge hump on his back. Before they could ask why he'd come home early, Wag lied. "It was a half day today, and I just forgot to tell you before." And the bug grew. His father frowned and took Wag to his room and sat him down. "Son, we know you've been lying," he said. Wag couldn't stop himself. He blurted out, "No, I have not." The bug grew. Now it was so very heavy that Wag toppled over to the floor and he began to cry. "You've caught the lying bug," his father barked. "I've always told you about the greatness of truth, but I should have told you more about the danger of lies. They are worse than a robber or a wolf at the door." Wag tried to shake off his father's words. His father said, "There's only one way to stop the lying bug from growing and taking over your life. You're going to have to tell the truth." Wag cried and shook his head. He was frightened. He began to think that he'd forgotten how to tell the truth. In only 2 short days, he told so many untruths that he was actually more comfortable with the lies. And as a matter of fact, he even began to believe some of his own lies. It was easier to believe that he really had looked for food that day. It was easier to believe that, sure, he really was sick. He certainly felt awful. His father could see him struggling. "Son, only the truth can set you free from the lying bug." But Wag would not give up, and that bug kept whispering plans and schemes into his ears. "There's no such thing as a lying bug," Wag shouted. "I really did look for food. I really am sick. I don't believe you. If you don't believe me, because you don't love me anymore. If you love me, you'd believe me." The bug was so huge that it squeezed Wag so hard that the poor dog could hardly take a breath because of the tightness in his chest. And he found himself rolling around on the floor, wrestling with the bug, fighting to remember what was real and what was false. Wag's father could not stand it any longer. He went to another room and he brought back a large mirror. He held it up to Wag and he said, "Look, look," he growled. "What do you see?" Wag stopped and sat up. He looked and was horrified to see this giant blob under his fur on his back. Couldn't even look at himself in the mirror as long as that thing was there. He turned away and cried. "Tell me the truth, the whole truth," his father said. "It's the only way to be what you were. You are my child. I will love you no matter what." So it was that Wag gathered all his bravery and all of his strength, and he told the truth to his father. With each truth, the bug shrank and lost power. And by the time Wag was finished, the bug had become so tiny, so powerless, that it fell out of his fur and down through a crack in the floor. Wag hugged his father. "I'm so sorry. Please forgive me," he said. His father said, "I forgive you, and now I respect you for your strength in facing such a terrible battle." "I do feel stronger now," said Wag. "I feel lighter, better and better. Why, I'm never, ever gonna lie again." "Oh, no," his father chuckled. No. How about we just say that you'll do your very best never to lie again, okay? After all, that lying bug is not dead. It could creep back up on you someday. Wag thought about this. He nodded his head. "Okay, I see what you mean. I'm going to have to be on my guard." And from that day on, Wag was as good as his word. Not only did he shake off the lying bug the next time it came around, he helped his friends to recognize the dangerous little creature. Wag the dog became the very first watchdog. Because he and the other dogs could now spot the nearly invisible bug, they decided to bark out a very special warning whenever they spotted the lying bug sneaking around. So the next time you hear a dog barking and it seems like nothing is there, remember, it may be the lying bug whispering through the tall grass, passing by your door. Let the dogs give their warning. After all, their bark is so much better than the lying bug's bite. Yes, tell that through the halls of Washington. That's my big political statement for the night. I had vowed that if the dogs were barking, I was going to be reading that one tonight. The two that I actually had planned were a pairing of hope and faith. So get a bonus round tonight. The first one, there's a little tiny story behind the story. It's called The Diamond of Hope. And it was written for my son Zoltan. We had lived on a sailboat down in Florida for his whole life. He'd been to pre-K there and kindergarten, and it was time for him to go to first grade when we moved back to New Jersey to a place called Medford. And it was the summer when we moved back, and Zoltan is a November birth date. And only the principal was at the school, and the principal decided to test him. And so he asked Zoltan all of these questions, and Zoltan knew his numbers and his letters and his colors and everything, and the principal decided, wow, this kid's really got it going on. He's really smart. He's ready for first grade. I'm all set. We'll take him in. First week of school. First day of school, I get a phone call from the principal, and he says, you know what, I have a problem. He said, I didn't go to the child study team, and I really should have, so I'm not sure that Zoltan's really ready for school, so we're going to have to pull him out. And I said, nope, decision was made. He's already in school. Let's just see how it goes. It went badly, because what happened was there was a teacher there, and this teacher didn't like that they hadn't gone through the child study team. And so every day, the kids got a different assignment, but not Zoltan. Day one of school, they were given a page to color in, and it was a straw man, scarecrow, and he had fallen and tripped at the top of a hill and spilled a whole bunch of apples down the hill. And some of them had the letter R, and some of them had the letter G in them. And you were supposed to color the red apples red and the green apples green. which Zoltan faithfully did day 1. But on day 2, when all the kids got a different coloring page, Zoltan got the same one, and over and over and over again. Then one day the principal called me and he said, "We got a problem with Zoltan." And I said, "What is it?" He said, he's a dangerous child. We can't have him in school." "He's dangerous? Why is he dangerous?" He said, "Well, we asked him who Barney is, Barney the big purple dinosaur." Zoltan had never seen television before. And he asked him who he was, and Zoltan said, "Oh, I hate Barney. We all hate Barney. You got to get a mask and a knife, and you got to get rid of him." So I had to explain to the principal that he'd grown up on a boat, and he'd seen his dad put on a dive mask, get a scraper knife, and get rid of these purple creatures that stuck to the bottom of the boat called barnacles, which we called Barneys. And I thought that was going to be it, but he said, "No, you got to get rid of Zoltan and take him out of school." And I was like, why? And he said, "Well, I'll tell you when you come in." And Zoltan said to me, "I don't care. I never want to go to school again. It's boring and it's stupid and I do the same thing every day." And I looked in his backpack and I found all of the coloring pages. And sure, the first couple of days he tried to do the R's red and the G's green. And by the 7th or 8th day, they were all scribbled on in black. And when I went in, the principal and the teacher showed me the page. Only one page that he'd scribbled all over. I had all the rest of them. And they said, "You got to take him out. He's not ready." And I took Zoli home and I thought about it. He was crying. I was crying. And I came up with this story for him. And I'll tell you what happened with this story. It's called The Diamond of Hope. Once there lived a man whose business it was to tend precious stones. He was a jeweler of good repute, but very little sense. And it came to pass that a woman went to his shop and handed him a pouch containing a fabulous diamond known as the Diamond of Hope. The jeweler was thrilled to be entrusted with such a precious stone. It had a certain luster and spark not often seen. He thanked the woman, and he promised to give it the utmost care. Unfortunately, that stone began to weigh heavy on his mind. The gem appeared a little bit dusty, but he didn't dare polish it. He was afraid that underneath he might find a flaw. Also, he thought, how could it be that this woman had given him such a great prize? Why choose him? He'd seen gems such as this before, but he knew that one would never cross his path, so something had to be wrong with it. The next day, the man showed the stone to his colleagues, and they were skeptical. "How could this be so precious a stone?" said one of them. "It's the wrong size. It's too small." "It's flawed," cried another, rubbing hard with a rag. "Looking closely, you can see right here, the color is too yellow right in this spot." Though the jeweler did initially argue that color, size, and even flaws were not necessarily indications of a lack of worthiness, the others argued him into throwing the stone away. "Throw it away. It's not worth what you thought it was," said one colleague. "However, bandits could see the flaws, and maybe they'd come and kill you just to possess this. It's just not worth the risk." Now both the man and his colleagues were in a dither over the rock. At length they chose to seek the woman out and return it to her. After all, it was she who had placed them all in such terrible danger over this ugly hunk of mineral. After the stone was gone, the jewelers toasted their wisdom and good fortune. The stone was taken to another jeweler, who examined it and found it to be of great value and charm. Placed in its new setting, it shone with an even greater luster and brought joy to all those who beheld it. As the years passed, the first jeweler found that he had fewer and fewer customers, for the story of his folly had spread, and his judgment was no longer valued. So I told Zoltan that story that night, and then I typed it up, and then I mailed it to the school board and the principal, and thanked him for inspiring me to start a new career as a children's fabulist. The school board wrote me a lovely letter thanking me for it. The principal wrote a nastygram to me and CC'd it to the entire school board, ranting and raving about how dare I write such a horrible story attacking him personally in that way. Never mentioned him. The school board was absolutely bereft. And I suggested that maybe that principal had a rough week, but I'd be really happy to see him on Monday morning with my child, which it did. And Zoltan was just fine, and everything was just fine. The end. All right, so here's the last one for tonight. Hey, stories are not only medicine, they have power. The faith healer. Oh, I can tell the dogs are hearing the lying bug. See, now it's not so bad that they're barking, right? Now we know they got a job to do. The faith healer. Oh no, see, we need water. The faith healer. There was a boy who was very friendly. He said hello to everyone he met and gave the gift of a smile. One day an old man was walking past the boy's yard. The man looked tired and asked the boy if he could take a rest on his front steps. The boy smiled and invited the man to sit. But knowing he wasn't allowed to talk to strangers, the boy excused himself and went to fetch his mother to meet the man. The mother greeted the man and brought him some milk and fresh bread. The man told them of how he had once been very poor, but that he'd become rich when given a gift of a candle. When the candle's lit, he said, your hopes are answered. This seemed strange to the boy because the man was not dressed in very fancy clothes, and he was walking instead of driving any kind of fancy car that a rich man would drive. Since the boy was taught always to be polite to his elders, he didn't argue with the man. And besides, he'd never heard of believing or wishing or hoping for things before, but he was very interested in the man's story. When the man had rested, he thanked the boy and his mother, and he went off on his walk. But a few days later, the boy went out to play, and he found a small box on the steps. It had a card that said, "Light me, believe, and you'll have all you need." The boy was very excited. He took the box to his mother. Inside, they found a beautiful glass ball the size of a baseball. It was clear glass with red stripes flowing down from the top to the bottom. It looked like a very large, clear peppermint. It was filled with oil and had a wick. It was a glass oil candle. "Shall we light it?" his mother said. The boy thought for a moment and said, "Yes." Lighting the candle, the boy's mother asked, "Okay, what will you hope for?" The boy thought very hard. Since they'd been very poor for a very long time, they had very little furniture in their house. The boy didn't even have a bed. He only had a mattress to sleep on. "I would hope for some furniture soon," he said, and the candle was lit. Every day, the boy lit the candle, and he sat with his mother. They sat together staring at the beautiful little flame, and they thought about how nice it would be to have beds and tables and chairs and all of that sort of stuff for their house. Well, the week went by. Nothing happened. But still, they faithfully lit that candle. Then one day, a woman knocked at the door. "Hello, hello, I'm your new neighbor. See, we just moved in down the way, and our house came with an awful lot of extra furniture, and I was just wondering if you could use a bed." Surprised, the boy got his mother, and together they carried home the new bed. The next day, a man knocked at the door. "Hello there. I was just having a garage sale over here, and well, I got a lot of furniture left over, and I'm going round to the neighborhood asking if anybody would like maybe a table and some chairs." So it went, day after day. For nearly a month, strangers of all kinds stopped at the little house, bringing everything from dishes to pictures, fish tanks, garden rakes, lamps, all sorts of odd things. Often people brought things that the boy and his mother didn't really need or even like, but they were very polite, and they didn't like to refuse an offer of kindness. And they knew that giving made people feel good, so they didn't want their neighbors to feel bad. One afternoon, the old man stopped by the house, and he waved to the boy, and the child could hardly wait to tell him about the miraculous candle and to thank him. "It's amazing," the boy said. "We have too much now. But how do you turn it off? Oh, I'm so sorry, my child, he said. It was your faith that brought about the giving miracle. You don't want to turn that off. Just share your new wealth and your faith, and all will be well. So the boy and his mother went about sharing their new possessions with their neighbors and people that they met. They told of how their believing had brought about this giving miracle. The word spread of the miraculous candle and how it brought them riches. Unfortunately, one night, a burglar who heard of the candle broke into their little house and stole the candle away. In the morning, the mother saw that the candle was stolen, and she began to cry, and then the boy began to cry too. Then there was a knock at the door, and it was the old man. "Why are you crying?" he asked the boy. Because the wonderful candle, it got stolen," he sobbed. "And now we can't make any more wishes, and we can't even help our neighbors." The old man smiled, and he patted the boy in the head. He dried his tears. "Only the glass and the oil were stolen," he explained. "Those things can't give or receive. It was your faith that brought you good fortune, and it was your kind heart that helped you to give to your neighbors." He added, "See, believing is a strange thing. You can throw your faith away, but it can never be taken from you if you're not willing to let it go." As he turned to go, the boy cried out, "What's your name?" "People call me the faith healer." "That seems to do," he said, and he walked away down the road to a little house further off in the distance. So, a little faith, a little hope, and a little warning about the lying bug. So as time goes on, if I'm not feeling 100, I may read less stories, but I am not going to stop reading the stories, because stories are medicine. They make me feel better. I hope they make you feel better. And I think that the more we share them and we share our faith and our hope, the more healing we're going to have. Love you all. Good night.